And thanks for tuning in to 88.7 FM KBVR Corvallis. We are broadcasting live from the fourth floor of the Student Experience Center here on the campus of Oregon State University. And this week we have something great going on. It is the 9th annual High School Journalism Institute put on by the Oregonian and the Orange Media Network. It's the 9th year that it's been here at OSU, and I am pleased to welcome two of the students from this year's institute. Dylan Palmer, going to be a senior at Grant High School, and Hanin Najjar, going to be a senior at the International School of Beaverton. Hanin, Dylan, thanks so much for being here today. So this is obviously your first year at the camp. What has been your experience so far? What sort of things have you had a chance to do this week?
I have a little bit of experience writing for Grant Magazine, which is based out of Grant High School in Portland, Oregon. But I haven't been on it for very long. And so I was sort of sent here by the advisor of the magazine, and this camp so far has really given me the opportunities to sort of like solidify my skills in each area. You know, we focus on profile writing and then a news story. So you get to work on both different, both types of stories that people write. And then I'm also going to be working on an editorial opinion piece. And so, you know, you get that wide range of skills. And working with an editor from the Oregonian has been great because they, you know, their full-time job is dedicated to this work, so they have tons of knowledge, and it's been very great to, you know, get that knowledge from them.
Now, you mentioned working with the editors, reporters from the Oregonian. One of the great things about this camp this week is that we have so many award-winning journalists from the Oregonian helping out, being able to teach students the basics, a little bit about how to put together a newspaper. Hanin, what's been your experience working with the Oregonian staff? What's it been like getting to be hands-on in the journalism world with these professional journalists?
Well, it's been absolutely amazing. I've wanted to be a journalist since I was in second grade. And coming here, getting to learn how to write like a journalist, I found that it's completely different from writing in English class. There's things that I would never had known if I didn't come here. It's a completely different writing style. We're learning how to interview people, sitting down, having a conversation, gaining information, asking follow-up questions. It's something absolutely amazing. And then we come down and we sit down and we write draft after draft after draft after draft until we get it perfect. We recently did interviews of each other and wrote profiles on each other. And as I look at my profile, when I finished it, I said I never would have thought that I could write something like this. And it's amazing that I now can.
What surprised you most about that process of writing that profile?
I think it's the journalism. It's writing that's really descriptive. And I never realized how descriptive it was. When you're reading a book, it's always you're reading something that's descriptive so you can imagine the scene, so you can imagine the characters. With journalism, I never realized it was that you also have to write that description. And it's amazing to see that I could actually write that description when I'm talking about a person, and I can paint a picture of that person on paper.
Dylan, what have you learned from the process of writing so far this week?
Well, one of the coolest things is that this camp is only a week long, and we have to work on 2 different stories. So we've been sort of forced to write in such a tight time frame, but I've actually enjoyed it because it's sort of helped you really pin down those skills. And one thing I've learned that's really been imprinted into my mind is the sort of structure of each story that you write. You know, you start with the lead, which is, you know, it has to grab the reader, because if the reader doesn't like the beginning of your story, then they're just going to stop reading it and move on to the next one. So you got to have a lead, you got to have a nut graph, which explains what your story is about. Then you move on to the body. Maybe you got some background information there. And then you got the kicker, which sort of ends it, maybe a look to the future and stuff like that. And so it's been super great to practice all that a bunch. So it's really in my head.
Yeah, as part of the Institute, you're going to be writing multiple stories this week. Tell me a little bit about the stories you've had a chance to report on so far. Over the last few days, you've gone out into the community here at OSU and in the Corvallis area. Tell me about the people you've talked to, the topics you're covering. What are the stories that we can expect to see when this newspaper is published?
Well, I started writing the story on fashion trends and how past fashion trends influence future fashion trends. And we interviewed 2 people. When I first started the story, I felt this is going to be boring. But we went out and we interviewed. Our first person is a lady that works in this collection of antique clothing here at OSU. And we talked to her, and she showed us all these old dresses from the 1920s and this clothes from the 1860s. And it's absolutely amazing what her job is, because she gets to see all this clothes, and she gets to catalog it and find out its history and live and imagine what it was like to live in those clothes. And to write about that, to find out more about that, it was really interesting. Yesterday we also met another woman. She teaches at the school. She teaches classes on fashion trends, on sewing, on digital design. And as we were talking with her, we were talking about all the little things in fashion that I didn't know about, things I was curious about, and it was just a lovely conversation to have.
What are some things that came up in that conversation that were new or surprising to you?
I always wondered that when I look at a fashion show, when I was watching a fashion show, I see clothes that nobody would really wear in real life. And then she was explaining the process about how those clothes get simplified and become realistic styles and more affordable to go into stores, and how fashion, especially on runways, it's a work of art. It's designers who get to go out there and play around with colors, play around with textures, play around with fabrics, and to actually understand that aspect of it was amazing.
Dylan, what's really caught your attention this week on the stories you've had a chance to cover?
Yeah, I mean, like Hanin said, I wasn't exactly interested in my topic at first. I'm currently writing about the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake that's supposed to hit the Pacific Northwest at some point in the future. And, I was thinking like, okay, earthquakes, that's not really my thing. More of a people person. I want to talk about people. But, once we went to this, the WAVE lab that's here on OSU campus, and we toured it and talked to the director there. And it was really interesting. And then we cold called to we called a bunch of professors, and we had to try to, pitch them our story and try to get them to speak to us. And it was kind of hard because, we didn't necessarily have experience doing that. But it turned out to be something that me and the person I'm writing with, her name is Allison, we turned out to, be pretty interested in it. And the writing came easily after that. And we sort of learned that writing the story, it's all about people. No matter what you're writing about, it's all pretty much about people.
Even a story about earthquakes.
Yeah, because, what does the earthquake have to do? I mean, the earthquake causes a tsunami, and the earthquake itself has an impact on the infrastructure and stuff like that. And that all affects society and human beings. And also what I meant by people was that the story sort of writes itself after you interview people. You know what I mean? I mean, you sit down to write the story, and it's hard at first. You don't know what to say, and you struggle with the idea. And then you go out and you interview all these people, and the ideas just flow. And so as a journalist, sometimes it seems like your job is kind of easy. You just go out there and you talk to people, and you just take different perspectives and put it into one piece.
And as you're finding out this week, it's a lot different than how you picture it on the other side when you're a reader or a viewer or a listener to a show or an article or something like that. What's been the biggest thing you've learned about being on the opposite side of it, creating these stories, interviewing people, cold calling people to try to get interviews? What's been one of the biggest challenges you've learned this week?
Well, part of writing news stories is that you have to go into it completely unbiased, and you can't, really put your opinion into the piece. And definitely, I know that's hard for a lot of people, including myself in the beginning. You think, oh, I want to say this and say that in terms of your own opinion. But then you sort of realize it's not about your own opinion. And by speaking to all these different people and learning their points of view, you're really benefiting yourself, and you're definitely better off that way.
Absolutely. And aside from writing too, both of you are interested in multimedia. You've had a chance to do a little multimedia this week too. Hanin, in high school, you are involved in your social media club. Tell me a little bit about what the social media club does at the International School of Beaverton.
So social media club, we lots of times we go out and interview. We have a featured student. My school is middle and high school, so we have a featured middle school student, a featured high school student, and a featured staff member every single week. And so we go out, we interview them, we learn a little about them, and we just share that. We share that with the rest of the ISB community. And we take events and news from other clubs from the school itself, and we make posts about it. Like there's an upcoming culture week, there's an upcoming dinner, there's an upcoming something coming up. And we tell the students about it. We let the parents know on the social media pages.
And what is it like being able to use social media to interact with your audience too? Because it's not just posting information out, you're also getting people commenting and sharing and liking. What's the relationship with the audience you've had with social media?
Well, it's a good relationship. We have lots of positive comments. We try to refrain from having any negative comments on there. It's really powerful to see that in our world today, the technology is so powerful, so prevalent, and even most of the news we get it from social media. News is even on Snapchat now, and I think that's really important, especially as a journalist, to learn how to use those platforms to communicate.
And so as we're learning those platforms this week here at the camp, do you picture this as being something you'd like to get involved in as a career?
Yes, absolutely. Journalism is a big part of me. I've always loved to tell stories. I've always loved to take pictures and send messages, and to see it and to be part of it and to learn a lot from it this week has been amazing. But I think the best part is that, especially like to see it in our world, that in social media, that not only are we getting the news from there, but we can actually put it out there.
Absolutely. Dylan?
Definitely. I definitely wasn't thinking about journalism at all before I joined Grant Magazine, but I continue to have experiences that just, make this passion for journalism grow more and more. And I think a lot of that is because I've always been a little bit of an activist, whether that be in terms of racial issues or gender issues. But I've sort of discovered that, journalism can be my activism. And so I think it's a really great place to be if that's what your interests are. Absolutely.
Very well said. Anyone back home you'd like to give a shout out to? You've been here at the camp since Saturday. Anyone you want to give a quick message to on the air?
Sure. I'd like to say hello to my family, my brother Jacob, my sister Mia, mom, dad, and my girl Ashley. How you doing?
I'd like to give a shout out to my mother and my brother. They're both amazing people in my life.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for being here with us today on KBVR Corvallis. Hanin Najjar, Dylan Palmer, two of the students at the 2016 High School Journalism Institute here at OSU, put on by the Oregonian and the Orange Media Network. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to visit orangemedianetwork.com and also visit OregonLive.com for stories and blog posts from throughout the week of camp. Get a chance to see up close what these students are doing and the amazing work that they're going to do. The Pride newspaper will be published soon. All of the work from these students will be in it. I encourage you to check it out. Again, go to OregonLive.com for more information. Check out the amazing work that these students are doing. We're going to turn it back over to some music here on KBVR. Thanks for listening to 88.7 KBVR Corvallis.